Christian, as we take it off the top, of course, Nebraska got off to a strong start. Touchdown drive on the first time they touched the ball. Couple stops. Before you know it, they're up 14-3. And in addition to the score advantage, they just looked like the quicker, faster, more physically capable football team and just the more talented team, and looked like, hey, as long as they wouldn't make mistakes, they could turn this into a fairly comfortable win at one point.
Yeah, you said it best, Mark. I think the thing with Nebraska was they started off and their pacing, their tempo, their play calling in the first half was, I mean, it was perfect. I mean, it was exactly, if you're running a major college football, FBS program, exactly what you would want. And in the second half, this is, you remember when we talked about this, we did the breakdown of it and everything like that. We talked about what are the keys to the game? My keys to the game, believe it or not, Nebraska sort of did the old fake out, right? Like I thought they were going to try to throw it a lot more, and their pass protection wasn't going to hold up, and the run game was going to be kind of lacking. But I'll be honest, they ran the ball extremely well. They did a good job at running the ball when they wanted to. Initially, very early on, they were able to push the ball vertically, which is what Mark Whipple's known for. As the game, went on, though, Northwestern was only bringing a four-man rush up there. They were literally saying, "Hey, we'll let you run it. We don't care. We're not going to let you throw the ball on us." As the game went on, they started walking guys down in the box. They started blitzing in the second half. And I think that really started to change the outcome of the game. That was about where they started getting Casey Thompson out of rhythm and, sort of out of pocket. Now, on my own podcast, I've also said this. I said, Casey Thompson, to me, is a less athletic version of Adrian Martinez. I said that, right? I think, to me, if your offensive line's not great and you're going to have to run around and you're going to have to sort of make these elite athletic sort of plays, nobody is really going to be successful in that. You cut back to Casey Thompson, though, and the kid is a great improviser. I mean, he made a play. What was it? I think it was towards the end of the first half or in the beginning of the second half, where he was running around for like 20 seconds, throws up a Hail Mary, and somehow finds a guy wide open. I turned to my father-in-law and I was like, if they're playing Michigan or Ohio State, that's picked. Like there's no way that happens, because Nebraska always has that bad luck, I feel like, and it's just, I don't know, man. I think in the roundabout way of all this, I just think it's, the things I thought they weren't going to be good at, they did better, but the things that I thought that they would do well, they didn't do well. You know what I mean? The coaching, you could definitely tell, slanted way more towards Northwestern, and that was the outcome of this game. The Northwestern was just the better coach team, and from the athletic standpoint, Nebraska should have won this game. It just was, Nebraska was the less, they weren't the more well coached team in that, right?
Yeah, so Nebraska comes into this game and they've got more transfers playing on this team, and not just total transfers, but playing integral roles. Of course, starting with Casey Thompson, O'Shawn Mathis, Trey Palmer, we could go down the list on both sides of the ball. And for the most part, they were showing out, especially on the offensive side in the first half. Casey Thompson's an accomplished quarterback, and he's actually playing not behind a good offensive line, but maybe a better offensive line than he played behind last year. And he showed early in the game, he had a clean pocket. For the first 10 or 12 throws, nobody was touching him. Then Northwestern realized, hey, we got to do some things up front to get to him. And they started to harass him a little bit, but he was still making throws. He was still making the throws that in the first couple times that he was pressured, I was really impressed with him still delivering the ball. But as the game wore on, I don't know if it was he just went into a funk, the combination of the pressure, and he went into a funk. But obviously he was a different quarterback in the second half than he was in the first half. And on the defensive side, my goodness, we're looking at a Northwestern team that, and I want to give them credit, but a team that's void of real game breakers, take the top off the defense kind of players. But they were just, they were working the screen game. They were working the counter plays. It was just a well-crafted game plan to keep Nebraska off balance. And Nebraska's pass rush, which has been non-existent during this 5-year run of Big Ten abyss, was supposed to be improved, and it doesn't look like it's improved because Ryan Helinski pretty much stood in the pocket and delivered.
100%. Mark, it's funny because we go back to it, and one of the first conversations we had when you hired me to do this, I think we talked about it and we said, that was my take, right? If you're going to draw up like a team that you don't want to play opening week in a neutral site game in Ireland, it would be Northwestern, and it would be a quarterback of Ryan Helinski. I mean, you go back and, I'm a big proponent of history repeating itself. I mean, think about this, right? Like, it seemed to me, and I kind of told my family, and they thought I was crazy for saying this, right? I said, look, this kid is, this team and this kid is like Air Bud. You know what I mean? They're the underdogs. Nebraska's kind of the rich kids across town that are just sort of playing them, and you line up and you've got a golden retriever at quarterback, and that's Ryan Helinski. He beat Georgia at South Carolina on the road, and I know that because I grew up in Georgia, and you know what could probably come next from that. But my mother-in-law, who's huge Nebraska fan, as well as I am now, texted me throughout that game and said, "Oh my gosh, your dogs aren't really doing anything." And I know Ryan Helinski, and that's part of where I knew him from. And so coming in this game, I said, man, you have to watch Helinski. And he was. Throughout the entire game, he was, when he had to be, he was efficient. He just kept, at one point in the game, I think he was like 10 for 10. He just kept dinking and dunking. And I'll be honest, Northwestern at certain points of this game, they wanted to give the game back to Nebraska. It felt like that, right? I mean, like they just were, at certain points where you're like, you got to go for it. You got to go for it. You know what I mean? You got to be more aggressive if you're the underdog, like Northwestern was on like 4th down and short, and they didn't do it. They just stuck to their guns. They kept punting. They played the field position game. It was ironic because they're playing soccer or rugby, and they just played the field position game with them. And Nebraska came out of that game, and they couldn't do anything with it. It's like sort of like, okay, we're going to give you the ball to win the game, and you either have to win. We're going to give you the chance to win this game, and they just couldn't do it. It just, as the game wore on, they couldn't make the plays that they were making throughout the first half.